Hello, everyone. This is Sam from SaberiSixRealEstate, as well as Realtron Realty Inc. Back with another episode of the Above Asking podcast with my dear friend, my colleague, Ali. Ali,
With the home investors team and broker with Remax.
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 It's funny, you were telling me right before you were about to tell me something about an offer presentation you have today.
Oh.
And I said, this is, I guess, a very cliche thing that podcasters would say, where I told you, hey, don't talk to me right now. Only talk to me when the camera's on.
He doesn't want to talk to me ever. He just says, save it for the podcast. I'm not interested in what you have to say. So
I hate that
this podcast has ruined our friendship.
Exactly. I hate that we've become the typical cliche podcasters where we don't have any human moment unless it's recorded.
I miss you, man.
Anyways, go ahead.
Outside this podcast.
What's the deal with your offer presentation? And tell the people a little bit about offer presentations. You're working from the perspective of the seller.
The seller,
case.
yes.
But tell the people a little about this one in particular, and generally how offer presentations go down.
Okay. Well, essentially, the seller here has renovated the property, and there isn't a whole lot of comparables in the area and within the building either. So it's hard to come up with an exact price as to what the property's worth. However, based on the research that I've done and just market trends and what's happening in and around the area, we kind of have an idea as to what it should sell for. In either event, we've decided to put this out as an offer presentation. Essentially, we're going to show the property for, in this case, about 5 or 6 days, and then hold a date for all the buyers and their agents to submit their offers, and essentially
by a certain deadline.
Yeah, by a certain deadline. So the offer presentation is today. We brought this property on the market on Thursday. It's been showing. There's been a lot of bookings. A lot of agents and buyers have gone to see the property, and we hope that we get as many offers registered today as possible. And essentially, it should generate a bidding war among the buyers. And so that's kind of what an offer presentation is, depending on if you're a buyer. The better your offer is, the more attractive it is to the seller. And as a seller, it's a lot easier just to kind of look at. It is still pretty hectic, and there's a lot of offers to consider, a lot of terms and whatnot. However, if you want to get the job done as quick and as fast as possible, this is one of the strategies that you can use in order to review all the offers and essentially pick the best one based on the seller's needs and wants and everything else. So
ultimately, I would have to add, though,
sure,
just a little,
yeah,
because I've been involved in offer presentations from the selling side as well.
Yeah.
Typically, for people who might not be accustomed to these types of affairs, what happens is you have a property for sale on the listing side, and you have an ideal. You and your client, the seller, have an ideal closing date, a date where they want to sell it by and have the transaction closed by, and you just allow for people to come see it whenever they want to prepare and send an offer to you from the buyer's perspective. If the offer is good, you'll go with it. If not, you might sit on it a bit longer, right?
Right.
When you want to create a bidding war, as Ali just said, what you do is you create a situation where you'll have an offer presentation, wherein in the listing or in your network, or at times, most cases, both, you'll spread the word that we're listing this less than market value. Now, I don't know.
Yes. So I didn't
exactly,
touch on that. You're right.
I don't know if this is exactly the case with your property, because you said there's not a lot comparable, so it might be a little hard to determine the market value.
It is still below market value. Yeah. We've done that intentionally.
But the reason, intentionally, we as realtors, we list the property less than market value. So let's say there's a property that you can, by all metrics, by all methods, you can say it ranges between 515 to 530. Mm-hmm. Listed for 480, right? Something like that, a condo. Mm-hmm. And that's what we did with ours, and that's probably what Ali has done in the past, and will continue to do in the future. When you do that, you'll get a lot of you'll get a lot of people coming to you And also you add an offer presentation date.
Yes.
So you're saying 5 days, like Ali said, in 5 days the seller will go with an offer. And what you do is, since you listed less than market value, you get a lot of people coming to you, and you create a bidding war like that. And I don't know if you can agree with me, but the day of the offer presentation, at least in the hotter days of the market, I don't know now, it's a very hectic day.
Yeah.
You're constantly getting offers.
You're on the phone with agents, and if you have your own buyers, you're
seller.
Yeah.
And although I've had many offer presentations from the perspective of the seller, on the listing side, never had an in-person, classic, old-fashioned offer presentation where all the agents come with their offer in person.
Okay.
To a house or to the office. It's all been via email. And
really?
Phone. Yeah.
No, mine have pretty much all been in person, unless we weren't able to be present.
That's fine. You go ahead.
Yeah. So unless we weren't able to be present, where we emailed in the offer and then we would revise and then resubmit. It's all been pretty much in person. And I think here's the thing for buyers: when you're in person with a check in hand. Now, I'm not going to get into we can get into the different clauses and terms and all of that as well. But when you're there in person, it just means that you're that much more interested and committed to buying this property in the eyes of the seller, especially if you have a deposit check in hand. The seller obviously views that as a more interested buyer compared to somebody that, that lives in the city, is in the area, but just didn't bother to show up to the offer presentation and just emails it in. I'm not sure what your cases have been, where, it was during COVID and all of that stuff, but...
well, before COVID. Ours was before COVID.
Okay.
I guess for the property range we were working with, which was a condo in the 600s.
Right.
It's not a cheap property, but it's not necessarily a luxurious property either.
Right.
There was no need for the agents to come in person, right? When most of the business can be conducted via email and phone.
I prefer doing it in person. I prefer being able to look at the agents.
Why does it matter if they come with the right price, the right financing, closing?
Because you want to know if that's their highest price. And sometimes, what you see in person when you're talking to an agent, and you're asking questions and you're listening, they give up more information through their face, their how they react, than you can pick up over the phone.
Yeah.
So that's why myself and the team that I work with, we always prefer to do things in person. We prefer to negotiate in person because there's things that you can, some agents negotiate via text, which to me boggles my mind, right? If you're forced to, then sure, but I think text is email and text is the last resort for negotiating. Over the phone is the second, and then in person is what we prefer, because then you can say something and wait for the reaction. And based on how they react, you can figure out whether it's a bluff, whether, there's more to that, whether, if you ask somebody, is this your best price? And they hesitate, well, then that tells me that it's not their best price, that there is more wiggle room there. They can come up on price. So all of that stuff you can kind of pick up in person. Sometimes you can pick it up over the phone as well, but it's not as evident as it would be in face-to-face communication. So and I think that's a lost art.
When I say we do it over the internet or over email,
right,
all I'm referring to is just the conveyance of the documents, the offer, sign back, all of that, right? Most of the negotiations goes down via phone.
Right.
And what you're saying about not being able to judge or determine the bluffs, or if they're completely being 100% honest with you, I agree. However, in my situation with the properties we did create a bid with an offer presentation, we were just getting so much traction that at some point I didn't need to nickel and dime with a Realtor 101.
Right.
We knew we had amazing baffling amount of showings that day for
Right.
the property, and there was a lot of interest, right? But for sure, for properties that you and your team work with,
Yeah.
very luxurious properties,
Even
that's a different animal.
no, for sure. But not like I mean, this is not a luxury property by any means. It's a condo, right? So.
Gave you too much credit.
No, like I appreciate that, but no, like I mean, you are right with different price points. Like I mean, with condos, typically you get a lot more showings and there's a lot more interest because they're a lower price point and they're more affordable to most buyers. When you're dealing with luxury properties, it's a much smaller price point, and you have experience with that, and I'm sure so does your dad. He's got a lot of experience with that as well. But in any event, like I mean, for me, it's not really the price point. Even at a lower price point, if you can get another $5,000 to $10,000, which may not seem a lot for a property that's worth $1.5 million or more, but for that condo that's worth $500,000 or $600,000, that $5,000 or $10,000 extra is still a decent amount of coin for the seller.
Yeah.
So, if possible, we prefer face to face. If it's not possible, like I've won bidding wars over the phone. I did one last year where the sellers didn't want the buyers to be present, and everything was sent via email, and I had to communicate over the phone and just send everything via email. However, if I was a seller's agent and the seller, I would have been like, okay, everyone come to the property, and let's bang it out there.
Another added bonus of being there in person is
you also know how many agents are there as well, right? You kind of see how things. Yeah.
This is a psychological thing from the consumer vendor relationship is that when you're buying something. Now I'm taking this example outside of the real estate.
Okay.
Just generally speaking, when you're buying something online.
Mm-hmm.
Since you're removed from the whole buying process, you either buy indiscriminately, you just buy unnecessarily, or you just don't buy at all, right?
Right.
It goes both ways.
Which I think I know where you're getting at. Yeah.
When you're in person, and once again, let's just think of outside the real estate example. If when you're in like a marketplace, like like Middle Eastern marketplace or whatever, and there's like people are like buying T-shirts or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're there in person, there's more of an urgency, but that urgency causes more deliberation, right?
Right.
And I think the same thing applies for offer presentations in person. When you're negotiating with a realtor on the buying side, and he's there with his client, when there's an aspect of them when they're like, okay, I'm already here, we've already gone up this much. I don't want to lose out on this. We'll go up a little bit more.
Right.
Whereas if there was to be over the phone or distance, in a sense, they would say, you know what? There's another day. We'll live another day, and we'll go for more.
Exactly.
Time.
So
when you're in more person, there's that urgency, and
there's the hype,
further,
and there's the emotional attachment to the property, especially if the buyers really love the property, and that slips out of the agent's mouth, where they're like, I've never really told a listing agent that my clients really love the property, because that tells the listing agents that there's an emotional attachment that they can now play on.
I've told that, but it wasn't in an offer presentation scenario.
Oh, okay. Well, that's different. Yeah. But in an offer presentation, if the more information like that you get from the buyer agents, the more you can play on those emotions, and you can make it a bit more hype and get people caught up in getting the property, because people don't want to lose, right? And that's the one thing about offer presentations on the selling side, is that you want to kind of put that fear in their mind that they're going to lose out on this property. So you better come, and you better come strong, and you better come really with a really clean offer. And it's the emotions, and it's the psychology of buying and selling. And that's why I think in-person offer presentations I think the results you can get better results, in my opinion. That's not always the case, but generally speaking, you can get better results. I'm just kind of repeating myself.
Because you're there in person.
Yeah, and you can play on those emotions.
When you're losing out on something that you're not close to, in terms
Right.
of literally like physical proximity. If you're not close to a bag you're buying on Amazon, the physical proximity is very large. You have less of a stake in it.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you might be bummed that you lost out on it, that's sold out.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're close in terms of physical proximity, when you're losing out on something, you have more of an urgency to not do that.
Right. So, getting back to my offer presentation this evening. So I had an agent that reached out to me on Saturday saying they wanna put in a preemptive offer. Preemptive offer meaning it's a bully offer. Essentially, the buyer doesn't want to wait for the offer presentation to compete with everybody else. They want to pick this up before the offer presentation. And, the buyer's agent in this case is to kind of explain to the buyer that if you want to do that, you have to come in with a good, strong, clean offer that the seller is going to look at and say, you know what, this is a great offer. I want to accept this, and I don't really want to entertain any of the other offers. I don't want to go through the hassle and the stress and all of that stuff of going through your offer presentation night, reviewing all these offers, going back and forth. This is an amazing offer. It's good enough that I want to accept it. So she sent me an offer, and the price was not even like overwhelmingly great. It was over asking, yeah, but like it wasn't. Sorry, it was above asking, yes, but it wasn't amazing. It was a good offer. The price was okay, but then it was riddled with clauses and conditions. It was like 2 pages full. I was like, this isn't a bully offer. It's not.
Yeah.
We will more than likely see an offer like this, and probably even better than this, on offer presentation night. Yeah. So I spoke with my client. I explained it. I told him the conditions. I told him the price. And he didn't even want to see the offer. He's like, you don't even need to email it to me. Tell him I don't want to, I'm not entertaining it. I'd rather wait for the offer presentation night.
Since you're not revealing anything confidential,
right?
What the property address is, how much above asking was it? In terms of percentage or number figure?
It was. Let me calculate the percentages here. I don't want to give actual numbers, because it's still on the market. So,
So while he does that, folks, please feel free to subscribe, comment, rate, review. You can also follow us on Instagram or contact info, Gmail, phone number, Instagram, social medias is all in the description.
So it was about 11% over asking price.
It's good, but
yeah,
the 3 pages, as you said, of clauses.
2 pages of clauses, and then 3 conditions. And I was like, you haven't figured out your financing yet? Is that really? Are you submitting an offer, a bully offer on top of that, with a 5-day financing condition? And our offer presentation is in 3 days. We're not going to let you tie up the property for 5 days when we have an offer presentation in 3, and we're probably going to get either the same price or better without a condition. Yeah. A firm deal.
So let's explain. Firm versus non-firm. I guess that's the way you can put it.
Firm means there's no conditions.
Firm means, so obviously in transactions
and a deposit.
In business, when we submit an offer, the contract that the buyer and the seller sign, the agreement to purchase or sale, there are many clauses, like any other contract, there's many clauses and conditions.
Right.
There's also clauses and conditions that we can add as a matter of negotiating or just protecting the safety or looking out for the safety of our own clients and making a better deal for everyone involved. Right? So some of these clauses and conditions are inspection clauses, inspection conditions. What else?
Financing, status certificate.
Yeah, all that. There's a lot. But those are the main ones.
What that really means is that, for example, if there's a financing condition, that means that the buyer perhaps only has a pre-approval and it's not a firm approval. They still need to go back to the bank or whoever the lender is with the purchase contract and the property details for the bank to firm up or finalize the mortgage financing or the mortgage approval for this buyer and that property. And sometimes right now it's taken up to 5 days because of COVID and things have slowed down a little bit. So there's not, they don't have the manpower to process everything so quickly. In times when we didn't have to deal with this and the market was hot, approvals were turning around in 1 or 2 days. So in this case, I think, before I get back to you in this case, that's what a condition is. So that's in the case of financing. If you do an inspection, they want to check out the property, check out the structure, the HVAC, all the mechanicals of the property, the appliances to make sure everything's in working order, nothing's deficient, nothing's broken, the roof doesn't have any holes, and essentially they want to know, what state of repair the property's in, how much they have to put in once they do take possession in terms of things they need to fix or repair, and essentially that status certificate is just let's get back to the point.
These conditions, depending on the circumstances and the dynamics at play, can either be inserted or waived or submitted without.
Right.
In any case, in order as a negotiating tactic, as a matter of making your case stronger or strategically making your case weaker at first, and then as a matter of negotiating, waiving those conditions.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of the intricacies are a ton, but a firm offer is an offer where off the bat, regardless of the price, I don't think firm offers really even relate to the price point. It's more so an offer that does not require any conditional period for it to be finalized.
Satisfied, yeah.
Because that is what an agreement of purchase and sale is. It's an agreement to purchase and sale. Mm-hmm. It's not the purchase and sale contract. When a buyer and a seller sign the agreement to purchase and sale, they're agreeing to buy and sell on the closing date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what it is. People confuse that. They think people who are not maybe never bought or are thinking of buying or never sold because they never bought. Mm-hmm. But people who are not familiar with real estate, they think an offer is just also the contract. It is part of it.
It becomes a contract, though. It
becomes a contract, but at first it is just an agreement that you are going to do this. It
right.
is not what it is. It's not the actual thing in itself, right? So when you have that,
hold on.
The agreements to buy and sell is the conditional. Everything is conditional. Truly, everything is. When you actually want to think about it, everything is truly conditional until closing.
Yeah.
There's, but there is a second layer of conditionality where, if I submit an offer for your property, mm-hmm. My offer is above asking, like this podcast, and I have a financing condition for 5 days, as you mentioned.
Right.
If you accept, your seller accepts the offer, it's still an agreement. It's not the actual contract in itself because the conditional period has not been exhausted. The condition has not been waived, has not been satisfied.
Right. Once all of that stuff has been satisfied and it's firmed up and the deposit has been delivered, both parties are bounded by that agreement, though. Yes. So that does become the contract that both parties have to, abide by and fulfill on closing date.
Also on top of the other
clauses,
paperwork that they sign between the lawyers and all that.
Yeah. Right.
So just to explain a little further what the firm means. Firm is just when you submit an offer without that conditionality at all. There is no 5-day period for inspection or financing or seeing if it's
right.
This or that. Right? There is none of that. It's just the straight up offer. It's firm in that sense. The firmness has nothing to do with the price. You know, you can even submit a firm offer below asking, right? It's still makes
Yeah.
it firm. It's just not a strong offer. I mean, depending on what market and what area, you know, a lot of.
But it's supposed to be a preemptive or bully offer, meaning we want to buy this property before it goes to the offer presentation night. So it's supposed to be strong and, generally speaking, a firm offer. The price was okay, and the conditions certainly didn't make it a strong offer. And so the seller decided, I'll hold off and see what offers come in on the offer presentation night, because it didn't make sense for him to hold up the property for a price that he was going to expect anyways. So we'll see what happens tonight. Today is the offer presentation night. And we're going to bang it out. We're going to get above asking.
Interesting question the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And not only asked me, I actually looked on the Toronto Real Estate Reddit page. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
No.
But, and I saw someone asking the same question, which is in the Willowdale area. Are you familiar with the Willowdale area?
Yes, I am.
Why are so many houses right now in today's market being sold for $3+ above $1 million? And so many of the houses are newly constructed. They look exactly the same, and it's just unusual activity for today's slower market, right? So at first I thought, you know, let me look into the market trends and market stats in the area, see if it's just picking up. Because Willowdale is just a generally...
It's a highly desirable area. There's a lot of... It's got a great school district. And so a lot of people want to live in that school district.
And it's
in that location.
It's not like midtown. It's kind of uptown, I guess.
It's a little bit uptown, but it's closer to 404 and 401. It's closer to the 401, sorry, yeah. 401. Right off of Yonge Street, Yonge and Shepherd area, between Finch and Shepherd.
My answer, my initial thinking was like this. Yeah, it has to do with all these local factors. It's just all these economic factors such as valued area. But it just didn't make sense. So I actually...
Are you asking why the price point is at $3 million, or why have all of these properties come to market?
Well, why is so many selling in such a short period of time above $3 million and above in a high price point in today's slower market? It just didn't make sense to me.
Well, who said today's market is slow?
It's picking up, but it's slow. It's definitely compared to 2016, 2015, 2014, even earlier.
No, I wouldn't say it's slower than 14, 15.
You wouldn't say it's slower than 14, 15?
It's slower than 17, yes.
To me, 16, 15 was hotter. Like that, those.
Well, you got to look at the numbers. I can't just go out and say that. But,
in my opinion. But anyways, earlier this year, I think it was hotter.
Yeah,
February.
Compared to earlier this year.
So it's just slower. Why can't we agree that it's slower than...
Okay, sure.
Anyways,
it's slower.
So while we're selling properties selling at that price point, in a high price point, short period of time, and I realized, I did a bit of research, and I told you this before we started the podcast about the transparency laws, right? What I realized, and what I actually asked around and other people confirmed for me, is that it's these foreign buyers, mainly residing in China,
that have
walking up these under shell corporations. That's a different thing.
They're scooping up these properties, okay.
Before the transparency laws come into place.
Okay.
I don't know if people are aware, but not only did you not need to be a resident of Toronto or Canada to purchase a property, you could remain anonymous and do so, right?
Okay, so what's the transparency laws? Essentially, do you have to disclose whether you're residing in Canada or not? Right? Yeah.
Yeah, just a FinTrack for foreign buyers. They can't buy it under it's an initiative pushing for further transparency because it's too opaque. You can't buy any longer under a shell corporation.
Okay.
Right? So, from my understanding, that this initiative is going to come into effect, and the legislators are pushing for such a implementation of these laws to create further transparency, and these Chinese investors are somewhat money laundering through these shell corporations to pick up these properties in the Willowdale area quick before these.
Money laundering, are you saying that the money that they're using to buy these properties are from the proceeds of drugs and crime?
I'm not
Because that's generally what money laundering is. I mean, if they're doing that, okay, but if they just deem the Chinese economy turbulent and not safe and secure, and they want to buy up Canadian real estate where they know their money is safer.
To be fair, money laundering doesn't necessarily imply illegal activity in the circumstances of like drugs and criminal activity in that sense.
It's cleaning of money. That's generally what it means.
I might be wrong about this. My understanding is yes, money laundering is 90% of the time correlated with that, but you can money launder in certain circumstances where you're not doing illegal activity, or you are, but it's not criminal activity. So, for instance, if you have a business and you want to take out a loan in the name of that business, right, and that business is not producing, you can just produce income for that business through money laundering means, right? You're not doing anything. You do something illegal, but you're not criminal. It's not drugs. It's not, prostitution, drugs, or anything. I don't want to say that example, but the point being, though,
I think that's just, reshuffling your money.
What through you do when you wash
well,
clothes, you shuffle your
yeah, but money laundering is pretty much the I think the exact definition of money laundering is, having money from illegal activities that you can't utilize or. Yeah, but illegal activities.
No, I said I agree, illegal, but not criminal. You just said, "Oh, are you accusing these people of like drugs and like selling guns and all, like illegal like thing we see in movies, Netflix shows, HBO."
Well, anything illegal is generally criminal.
No, I understand, but criminal in the truest sense of the criminal, like drugs. You came out with the drug example.
Well, that's what most people through prostitution, drugs, arms, selling weapons. And, and all of these other forms of theft, whatever the case might be, it's generally criminal and illegal. Well, and so they have to shuffle it through, other means. They have to clean the money and then pay taxes on it in order for them to use it.
In China,
but anyways, yeah.
In China, I'm obviously not a sociologist or a political expert and a historian on the Chinese system. My understanding, though, would be that there are a lot of incentives for you not to claim certain income. So if you don't want to claim certain income as a Chinese wealthy individual, right, you create a shell corporation in one of these offshore islands.
Right.
Through that shell corporation, you purchase properties and then you launder your money like that. So that's still purchase properties. Obviously,
that's more like tax evasion.
But it's still laundering your money, though. Okay, but this is besides the point. Fine, it's shuffling your money around.
Okay, so anyways, get to the point of this transparency law.
What basically happened is I told you it was raining, and you're like, no, it's not raining. Water is falling from the sky. That's what you just said to me. I'm like, it's money laundering. You're like, no, you're shuffling.
Water is, it's cloudy today. No. So, anyways, let's get to the point of this new law.
This is what I assume, and my theory is, and I've asked around. A lot of people have, obviously not firsthand, but they share this theory that.
So they're offloading these properties, and then what again? What do they want to do? Who's purchasing it?
These people. No. The Chinese money laundering or whatever you want to call them. They're not the ones offloading them. They're the ones purchasing them.
But that would go against the transparency laws.
Well, no, they would be grandfathered in. I'm saying the transparency, they're doing it before the transparency laws come in.
Oh, you're saying essentially the sellers in that area have caught wind of this transparency law, and they know that.
The buyers have. I don't know about the sellers. I think yes.
Well, hold on, wait. That doesn't make sense. If the buyers have caught wind of this, that wouldn't necessarily get the sellers to sell their property. It's the sellers that have caught wind of this, and they now understand that there's a lot of buyers coming in to pick up properties before the law comes into effect.
No, I'm saying
in order to be grandfathered in.
The demand has increased because the buyers are trying to scoop these properties up before these laws that are coming into place, or the push for these laws creates a scenario where they can't scoop them up under these. So what I'm saying is not only are they foreign buyers, but it's a second level removed. They're foreign anonymous buyers.
Right, I get that, but you said why are there so many properties coming on the market?
No, it's coming on the market selling. Yeah, obviously the sellers have also caught wind of this, and in a certain extent, the sellers, whether it be the builder, I think it's the builders to real. It's not like your typical
the custom home builders.
Yeah,
right.
Pop sellers. Maybe it's one or two like that. But
okay.
I think they've caught wind of this as well. Yeah, I think it's on both sides. I think people are just riding the wave, and it really sucks because it's activity like this. Obviously, the foreign buyer tax. We're living a post-foreign buyers tax now. Before that, although the market was crazy and it was hotter for agents like us, we were doing more deals, real estate agents. That really did, I think, price out the average Canadian citizen, the average Canadian person.
But now they're doing it again. See, the message I'm getting from this is that the government just needs to butt out of the market. Because every time they come into the market, it's affecting the local buyers.
Well, if they don't, it's affecting them even worse.
Not necessarily. They're passing this law. Now all of these foreign buyers are coming in, scooping up properties and paying more than what they're probably actually even worth by 100, 200,000. And that sets the precedent. That's now the new selling price in that region, which means after the law has passed, anyone that's looking to buy in that area is now also looking at these new price points and saying, this is now the average price for these properties, and this is what we have to.
In the short run, but in the long run, once these, because people are scooping in, buying it, increases prices.
Okay, so let's
come down when people see, okay, we can no longer sell at these prices. So probably
yes and no, but let's compare the prices now to the prices back in 2017, January, February, March, when it was literally the peak of the market.
So your general theory
are the prices any lower than at that point, or are they pretty much the same? Because that is now 3 years, which is still considered, that's a pretty decent amount of time for prices to have come down and stay down. But I think the prices have come back up and are probably even higher than they were at the peak of the market. And so the trend is upwards.
Well, I don't know. Maybe
so if you want to look at the numbers, then we can have a more, educated, intelligent conversation. But I do think that the numbers are probably around that price point. So, they might come down after this transparency law comes into effect. The foreign buyers and whoever that's trying to buy under a shell corporation will disappear. Maybe the prices do dip a little bit, but then the trend is going to be back up.
So my question for you,
but essentially, they're driving the prices up right now for even the local buyers.
So
because
my question for you, generally speaking, is outside of the real estate context, just generally in terms of economics and the market.
Yeah.
All this. You think less government intervention
absolutely
is good? So how far would you go? I'm just curious what your philosophy is.
Listen, I at one point was
pretty. How much do you think the government should regulate the free market?
I can't say how much.
No, but like what?
It depends on a case by case.
Are you okay
no, I'm not okay with completely no regulation. There has to be a certain level of regulation. Just to make sure that that people do still play fair, and that there isn't an overwhelming amount of abuse in the market, especially among the larger players. However, I do think that there shouldn't be that much regulation that ties up the hands of the little guy. I think a lot of these regulations that come in are intended to help the little guy, but they're actually not. And it's making it more difficult for the little guy or the average Canadian to get into the real estate market, to invest, to try and get ahead through real estate or any other means, even if it's their own business or what have you. It's making it more difficult for them to get ahead. Yeah. And I'm finding the gap between the wealthy and the middle class keeps widening. And the middle class is now, they're dropping to almost a lower class. Like right now, with COVID and what's happening.
So what do you think of CERB?
What do I think with CERB?
Yeah, dude. Now I said, what do you think with CERB? I said, what do you think of CERB? Don't make me sound like I'm fresh off the boat.
No, no, but in what context? What do you like?
So that is a form of government, not regulation, but intervention. I've spoke to a lot of agents. I was with buyers of mine who were visiting this property, which, funny enough, as we talked about earlier in this episode, was the listing side was looking to make an offer presentation. So that day, me and my buyers were seeing with a bunch of other agents and their buyers for the offer presentation the next day. Now, ended up that my clients were not interested in the property whatsoever, but I'm just harkening back to our earlier conversation. Point being, I was talking to this agent. We were just having a small talk while I was waiting for my clients to arrive. Typically, I give my clients a ride because that's the service I provide, but these people were very incessant in that sense.
Okay, let's move it along.
I just want to let people know.
I let my clients drive to the destination.
Are you saying that as me or as yourself?
As me.
Oh, okay, good.
I don't pick up most of my clients. I don't.
I do because it's the least I can. But anyways, point being, we were having small talk.
You're a cab driver.
And he was very anti-CERB. He was saying what's happening with CERB is people are getting paid. They might not go back to work.
Yeah.
They might rely on CERB.
Yeah.
And because of CERB, the buying force is weakened.
I agree with that to a certain extent.
I don't agree with that at all. What kind of world is this guy living in where people are happy getting $2,000 a month?
Are you kidding? Some people that are working minimum wage, this is more than what they're making. And so therefore they'd rather sit at home and do nothing.
Wasn't your buying force or your buying base in the first place? So you're saying...
Well, I get that, but...
There's no but after that.
If there's 2 people or 3 people in the household and they're all getting CERB, sitting at home, making $6,000...
Yeah.
That could...
That sounds like a good plan. We should adopt that. No, I'm kidding. But those people were not going to be your buyers. Those people were not going to constitute the demand of the market in the first place.
It depends on what price point. Like I said, 3 people in a household that are now making $6,000 sitting at home, maybe combined their income was $5,000, right? That's $60,000 a year. And they could probably qualify for 1-bedroom den or a small 2-bedroom condo somewhere where the price point is from $3 to $450,000, $500,000. Which of course it makes sense.
No, it makes no sense because I'm not talking about you. He was saying CERB is going to make people are going to rely on CERB, not go back to work. That's what the argument this guy was making.
For some, yes, that is the case. You got to keep in mind, it has to keep the economy going.
Wait, his proposition is assuming that what they're making with CERB, right, is higher than what they were making otherwise.
For some, that's the case. For some, that's the case.
If that's the case, first off, they weren't going to be your buyers anyway.
It's not a matter of buyers. It's not a matter of buyers.
Can I finish my sentence?
Sure.
They weren't going to be the demand in the market that you think is diminished now in the first place because we're talking about $2,000. Even if it's 4 people in a household and making $2,000. If those 4 people making $2,000 all together are making more otherwise they wouldn't have been your buyers in the first place, right? However, that's one. Number 2, you're saying they're making more now. So if anything, they're in a better position to be your buyers now. Now, obviously, there's a lot of actual practical things involved with that. CERB is taxable. Most people who collect in CERBs are not looking to get involved with the market. My point is, first point was not only are they were they not otherwise your buyers, now they're making more. I don't think it's good to feed off of CERB and all that. My point is though, I don't think it really does diminish the buying force. If anything, what it does is make sure people don't go bankrupt. In the meantime, gives them a band-aid so they can regroup and get together and go back into the job market, find a job, and get back involved with the real estate market.
Okay.
Real estate.
So here's what I have to say about all of this. Anyone that's on CERB is probably not getting qualified for mortgage right now. Okay.
Of course. Yes.
So let's take the fact that if they're making more, they're now part of the buying power. No, they're not, because they're not getting qualified.
I don't necessarily believe in what I just said in that second point. I'm just saying the argument can be made. But the first point I agree with. They weren't otherwise going to be your buyers if they're making more with CERB.
Now, and then it depends on what price point. If we're talking about like, the average 900,000, then yes, no. They're not part of the buying power. At 500,000, 4 people in one household, if you bring all their money together,
if 6K, $400,000, $500,000, okay, maybe 400.
they can buy a condo in Scarborough that's worth 450 to 500,000. If they have a decent amount of down payment, all of their income combined, they can probably buy.
So why, if you're saying, if we both agree that you can't really get involved in the market with CERB money, then why are you making the argument that now they can? If it's 4 together, I don't get it.
Not on CERB money. If they were to go back to work and have
my point is, I think CERB is.
So, Baba, hold on. Just let me finish my point now, okay? So there's 4 people in a household. They're each making $2,000. That's $8,000. Now, outside of CERB, they'd be making $6,000, for example, as a household. As a household with $6,000 and a decent amount of down payment, they could probably afford a condo in Scarborough priced between $400,000 to $500,000. So they could still be part of the buying force, but at a much lower price point. Maybe not things that you and I are used to selling, but they could still be part of the buying force. So let's put that aside. That's dealt with. The other thing is that people that are on CERB and don't want to go back to work, it's not just them. It's the repercussion is not just with them. It's also with their employers. The people that are employed on CERB are not the ones really filing for bankruptcy. It's their employers that have small businesses or medium-sized businesses that are going bankrupt, that can no longer afford to continue running their operations. And those are the real people that are part of the buying force and are helping keeping the economy going by employing people. And so we need to look out for those guys that are right now bleeding excess amounts of dollars, and they're hurting.
How does CERB hurt them? Because if the government is going to be shut down and businesses are going to be shut
down. If the government continues paying out CERB, then there's no motivation for a lot of people to go back to work.
But they can go back to work. If the government's saying you can't go back to work.
So my point is, like, they need to stop with the CERB and let businesses reopen and kind of get back.
They're not contingent upon it. Okay, my point is, look, you're saying the CERB is also hurting business owners. I'm asking how that is
because who do you think is going to have to pay the CERB back? The taxes are not going to be mainly from income taxes that the government's going to get that money back. There's going to be a lot more in business taxes, and HST might probably go up, and that's going to hurt a lot of businesses that now have to pay back higher taxes later on.
They had no CERB to live off of. If they were
in the short term, it made sense.
If they're unemployed, they can't even buy anything from businesses. If people during this whole COVID situation had nothing to supplement their income whatsoever, right, or supplement whatever, they had nothing, they wouldn't be able to use Uber Eats. They wouldn't be able to go to IKEA or order things from Wayfair.
So if you're on CERB, you shouldn't be on Uber Eats. Let's be honest here. It's ridiculous that you're ordering food you're ordering in food, and you're paying for the delivery, and you're on CERB. It's ridiculous. Go to the grocery store, go buy your groceries, bring it home, cook it, and do that. Let's not waste money. It's ridiculous.
That's a better example. You wouldn't be able.
But people are doing that anyways. They're still ordering Uber Eats.
No. You wouldn't be able to go to the grocery store and give back to the small business. I'm not even talking about Metro, Loblaws. I'm saying your mom and pop grocery store. They wouldn't be able to go down the block, buy a head of celery, come back. Because you know what? Maybe that day they've been laid off, if they've been furloughed, if they had no CERB money. That day, you know what? We're eating canned food from 2 months ago before COVID. I can't afford right now to do groceries and give back to the small
Agreed.
business.
Sure. So I said I partially agree with the guy. I don't agree with the guy 100%. I think in the first 2-3 months, CERB was required because they literally shut everything down and nobody was able to work. So at that point, it did make sense. But now we're getting to the point where the government has to turn around and say, guys, we can't continue funding you guys. We can't continue paying out CERB. People need to now start getting back to work.
I think people want to get back to work. The percentage of the population that's just...
I don't know what percentage doesn't want to go back to work, but I'm sure there's a few that say CERB is giving me more money than I'm making, at my job. So I'd rather continue just chilling at home and collecting that CERB money. There's a percentage of the population that is certainly saying that and would prefer that. I don't know what percentage that is, but I think the government needs to start getting people back to work and telling people that it's not, don't fear going back to work. Because they've put into place, the safety precautions with masks, with gloves, antibacterial, and whatever else, 6 feet of, keeping your distance, etc., etc. It is safe with these measures to go back to work and get the economy started again, for people to start making an income and businesses to start generating revenue. Otherwise, they're all going to go bankrupt, and then we're going to be in a much bigger shitstorm than we think. It's the small businesses and it's the medium-sized businesses that really are going to be impacted. If Victoria's Secret has turned around and said, we're closing down all of our retail operations,
that's the example you went to.
No, but right, but no. But
upset at Victoria's Secret.
No, I'm not. No, but here's the point that I want to make on that, and people don't understand. Victoria's Secret sells undergarments that cost a fraction to make, and their margins are substantial. Lingerie is very expensive, and any girl will tell you that it's expensive, but their margins are so big. And if a company that's on these wide margins deciding to close down the retail operations, what does that tell you about everything else?
That retail is just dying anyway.
I understand that. Well, it's dying, but still.
CERB. I mean, I don't want to say
it has a lot to do with COVID. Sure, it does.
Yeah, a lot to do with COVID, but not the response to COVID. Okay.
Nando's is closing down. Hertz is closing down.
You said there's a lot of people.
Bro, 6 feet of distance, bro. Why are you touching me? COVID.
You said there's a lot of people that are making more on CERB.
I didn't say there is. I don't know what a lot is. I don't know what a lot is, but
$50 an hour, which is the minimum wage.
15.
15 is the minimum wage.
Shit, that's a lot. I remember my days. It was like
my first
640. It was less than half. 640.
My first, with inflation and everything, but my first job in Canada as a sidetrack, I was getting paid less than the minimum wage. They were paying me cash. They were taking advantage of me. I was paying $8 an hour when minimum wage was 12. Can you believe that? Or it was 10 or like 11 or something. I don't know, but
wow, $8 an hour, poor guy. 640 and I was still getting taxed.
That was in 1970, bro. It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
Anyways, my point is, what was I saying? You said some people are making more with CERB, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you realize if you get paid minimum wage, work 40-hour weeks, monthly you make more than CERB?
That's assuming everyone's working full time. There's people working part time. They still qualify for CERB.
Yeah. Okay. The per people working.
Like.
No. My assumption was minimum wage, 40-hour. I literally stated 40-hour work week. Okay, fine. Those are the full-time people. That the part-time people who are making less than that, making maybe $1,800, $1,400 a month. Those people, I'm sorry to say once again, were never going to be involved in the offer presentation for your property.
I get that. So real estate aside, okay, he's a pretty extreme case of why they shouldn't be paying out CERB. I don't agree with everything he's saying, and I wasn't there part of the conversation to really have the full scoop and put it all into context. This is hearsay, what you're telling me, and obviously what you're telling me also has your bias built into the story. So no, but like for real though, I'm not saying you're misrepresenting. I don't know his full view.
He literally said that, hey,
but in any event,
if government keeps the CERB going, it's going to be slow for us because that's going to reduce the buying power. It's going to diminish demand.
So maybe he's talking about the second tier or the next level of people not going back to work. The business owners don't have the labor force and are not making as much revenue. And maybe those business owners are his clients that don't have the buying power anymore. So it's a ripple effect. You can't just say because the part-timers working minimum wage are not part of the buying power in real estate that it doesn't have an impact on everybody else. It's a ripple effect. If they're not working and business owners are not generating revenue, then those business owners they can't buy anything. They can't buy real estate. They can't do home improvement renovations. They can't, get a new TV or a new car or anything else.
If they're working, my point is though, it kind of levels out. I'm not sure if the first off,
Levels out how?
Listen. First off, I'm granting something that I don't agree with. I'm granting that people are going to not go back to work once they can. That's what your point assumes.
So you don't agree with it, but you are saying yes, it's a valid point.
No, I'm granting for the sake of argument.
Okay.
For the sake of argument, let's say yes. People is this large majority of people who want to live off CERB and they don't want to go back to work. That's why the labor force will be decreased and the business owners are going to suffer. But at least they have spending power. People still have spending power. They can support the small businesses. They can with the CERB money. Once again, I don't think that's the case. I think people genuinely don't want to take advantage of the government. I'm not saying everyone. Obviously.
Sorry about that. We had a small glitch. But anyways, we're back. So you were saying.
We had a glitch in the system. And speaking of systems, I don't think there's any system. I might have said this just right now. I don't think there are any systems that people won't take advantage of. So yes, I think people do take advantage of certain aspects of government interventionism. I do think that's the case. But I think CERB in the long run, like this agent was trying to tell me, that it hurts the buying force, it hurts the buying power, it diminishes demand. These people who are making more on CERB otherwise, because that's what your argument assumes, it's premised upon the assumption that now that they're making more money with CERB, they're not going to go back to work, or that they don't want to go back to work. It's also premised upon that. I think it's just logically flawed. I don't think people who are making more on CERB were going to buy your property in the first place. I don't think they were going to submit an offer and try to get involved in a bidding war with someone else who was offering $780. Now they're offering $785, and they're no longer going to do that because they're on CERB. No, they were not. CERB is $2,000 a month. Who's making $2,000 a month? Who's making more than they were making before? Was not going to be your buyer, whether it's at $700,000, whether it's $600,000. I can even argue at $500 and $450 and all that.
Okay, so yes and no. I agree with you to a certain extent. I think that person individually, perhaps not. That person plus 3 or 4 family members in the same household, maybe they were able to buy something together, a condo in Scarborough, anywhere between $400,000 to $500,000. Now, it's not just that though.
How many family members did you say?
1 plus 3, so 4 people in total.
So you think a condo in Scarborough for $450 is going to fit 4 people?
A 2-bedroom condo, yeah.
You think that's okay? Fine. We'll agree.
Let's say husband, wife, and 2 adult children.
And 2 adult children are going to share a room.
Hey, I've lived in Well, come on, you and I have been through a lot of properties. I've seen townhomes that are housing 3-4 different families.
Yeah, I've seen that for
so
rents, leases. People who are going to purchase property are not going to purchase unless they're children or teenagers or even young adults. They're not going to purchase for a family of 4 with 2 people who are working professionals who still live with their family.
Working professionals, we're talking about people, once again, we're talking about people that are making minimum wage, where CERB is more money than what they're making.
Minimum wage people are not part of the buying force, whether it's in conjunction with 3 other minimum wage people or by themselves. They're generally not part of
I don't necessarily agree with that, but generally, yes. I don't really agree with you, but generally speaking, yes, most people that are on minimum wage are not really part of the buying power. However, it's not just about them. It's about the people, the companies that they work at as well. Who those guys might be part, or probably are part of the purchasing power. And if they're not generating revenue, and if they're not making money, then they're not buying anything. And that's probably what he was. The small and medium-sized businesses that are employing these people. I
think the small businesses. These people are contributing to the small businesses, medium businesses, because of their ability to sustain themselves off of CERB.
You're assuming that every small business is a restaurant or something, or a grocery store where they're still making money, revenue. I have a lot of clients. I have one client who has it's a service-based business, right? And he has been told he cannot operate at all right now.
Well, you're talking about something else. I'm not. The debate isn't.
What do you mean? I'm talking about something else.
The debate here is not about the government shutdown, whether the government should have shut down businesses. The debate here is about CERB. So yes, I do agree that there are a lot of small businesses that are not grocery stores or hair salons or whatever. There are law firms. There are accounting firms. These minimum wage people are not patronizing law firms often, right? They're not part of the consumer base of a law firm. So I do agree. The law firms are being hit right now. I mean, I'm using a law firm as an example, but I don't think they're being that much. They're being hurt that much because a lot of lawyers I know, because we deal with a lot of lawyers, they work from home now. They just do everything they do otherwise. Otherwise, they just do it from home. But you get my point. That small businesses, I agree, or don't necessarily mean grocery stores or just stuff like that.
Right. I think you're missing my point in all of this. It's not just these minimum wage people being patrons of these small businesses. It's about them also working at these small businesses. And if the small business does not have the labor force to work and serve their customers...
Aren't they kind of saving costs, these small businesses? Because, I mean...
Really? You think they're saving costs?
No, the furloughing people, they're firing people because of this pandemic. So that's obviously what they're doing.
You think their rent money goes away and all the other expenses go away?
No, that's the whole point.
You think they're
cutting costs in the first place? Labor is cost.
Yes, I understand that. But I think a lot of those businesses would rather be in business and not have to cut that cost. They'd rather be operating, making money.
Now the debate is shifting to the government shutdown.
The government shutdown at one point made sense, yes, but now it's
the government shutdown. This started with the whole.
This is getting confusing. I don't know what you're trying to argue anymore.
I'm telling you what I'm trying to argue. Let me go through the taxonomy of our conversation. What it started with was a discussion about these foreign buyers originating from China, but obviously I'm not trying to specifically just put it on the Chinese foreign buyers. There's a lot of Indian foreign buyers. I don't know why I pick on Asia. There's a lot of Iranian migrant foreign buyers. There's a lot
that made it kosher.
There's a lot of Iranian foreign buyers. There's a lot of
Russian,
European foreign buyers.
Europeans,
yeah.
yes. Anyone that's buying under a shell corporation.
Yeah. So this discussion started with the shell corporation discussion about why all these houses in Willowdale at $3 million above were selling into fast time. Then it moved into a more general, abstract discussion about government and the role
involvement
of government in the free market, should it be regulated, and then we moved from that to CERB. What do you think about CERB? Now you're moving from that, which I'm happy to do. You're moving from the discussion of CERB and the merits to the merits of the shutdown, the business.
I'm not debating that at all.
No, but when you tell me, these businesses, you tell me in an accusatory tone, these businesses would prefer to be open. I'm not arguing that they wouldn't prefer. I'm not arguing the government shutdown was good.
So let's take it from here. There's a certain percentage of the population that is making more money from CERB than they would at their minimum wage job, and perhaps a percentage of those people would prefer to stay at home and still collect CERB than go back to their minimum wage job. And what I'm saying is that does affect the people that were employing these people, the businesses that were employing these people that now no longer want to go back to work because they're making more from CERB. It impacts them and it impacts their purchasing power in the economy.
I don't agree with that. I don't think these businesses are suffering because people don't want to go back to work. I think even if that was the case, once again, I don't agree. I'll grant you this for the sake of discussion. But even if it was the case that these people who are making more from CERB don't want to go back to work, these businesses will have no problem hiring people to replace them because people are desperate for work right now.
Right. Granted, but with a smaller labor force,
they can produce.
You have to offer with if there's, let's say there's 10 employers that have 20 positions, right? Before there was 20 employees, but now out of those 20 employees, there's only 15 because 5 decide not to go back to work because they're making more money from CERB. So now 20 job positions, 15 employees.
Yeah, but...
those employers have to provide more incentives or perhaps offer more money in order to attract those 15 employees to their job positions.
I think if anything,
it's simple supply and demand. There's no argument there.
If anything, more in terms of productivity, more employers are figuring out that they need less people to produce the same amount. You think you think a producer
in certain ways, yes, I agree with that.
You
Yeah.
think vendors just hire many as they want? No, they see marginal productivity per additional unit of labor. Am I producing additional goods for this additional unit of labor to be worth my while? Is that the case? And once they see they're at a point where the hiring the additional person is not the hiring the additional person at their cost, because their wage is a cost for them. If there is benefits, that's also at a cost onto that too. So they're seeing, is this additional person producing more for it to be worth my while to hire this individual? And I think if anything, vendors, employers are figuring out that no, we need less, we can work with less to produce the same amount or more.
Okay, so employers are not hiring as much, which means there's an excess amount of people in the labor force unemployed. Where do you think they're going to go?
Well, they're going to obviously work with CERB in the first place, but that's not the fault.
I've made my point. I'm done. I've made my point. They're going back to welfare or CERB. I've made my point.
But my point is but that's not a demerit on CERB. That's just a way of things with employers. How is that? It's not CERB causing the fact that the lack of marginal productivity is not caused by CERB. It's CERB is just a response to it. Is the effect. You get what I'm saying? So yes, if my theory is right, and labor and people who are hiring labor are hiring less labor because due to COVID they realized they could produce the same or more with less labor, that's not a demerit for CERB. That's, if anything, that's not even a demerit, but that's just a point about labor and labor economics and vendor economics. That's not anything to do with CERB. And I know I'm coming across like, you should just be on CERB all the time. I'm not saying that. I think it's just a necessity for people to supplement and sustain so they can get back involved in the job market.
I didn't disagree with that for a certain amount of time. But I think, in my opinion, that time should now essentially come to an end, and people need to get back into the labor force. People need to get back to work.
And at
a certain, yes.
All this shit about people are not going to be buyers anymore. This is where that started. Like, that's a stupid argument.
Right. And like I said, I don't agree with exactly what he said. I don't have the full context of the conversation.
And you say you're misrepresenting them.
I'm not saying you're misrepresenting them, but in any time when you try and rephrase what somebody said, there's a certain bit of your own bias that goes into it as well. But
now
it doesn't really matter.
Now, when you quote me behind my back, I think I know how you do it now. Because you put your own bias onto mine.
Well, I don't quote you behind your back, so. Hey, because I guess I have more valuable things to say.
Anyways,
I'm busting chops.
I'm starting to sweat on this shit, so I think
no.
You should make a closing argument.
I think the long-term repercussions of people not working will definitely impact the economy, and I think those that were buyers will end up becoming not buyers, or will have to postpone their real estate activities into a later date when things become more stabilized for them. And I can say that because I have clients that have had to do that, and I also have friends that have small businesses and have had to put a lot of their things, whether it's real estate related or not, on hold. They've had to push it back because they were unable to work, or they're bleeding a lot of money, not just because of their labor force, but other reasons. And so the long-term effects can be can impact any area of the market, whether it's real estate or not, any sector. In any event, this I think we've beat this to death, and we gotta go.
Well, thank you for watching, everyone. Subscribe, comment, rate, and review. Ali's.
My information is down below.
Yeah.
Follow me on Instagram, aliem.realtor. My information is also down below. And feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or ideas of what we should talk about next time.
And my information is in the description as well. SaberiSixRealEstate@gmail.com. SaberiSixRealEstate on Instagram. SaberiSixRealEstate on YouTube. And
Can you do that for me too? Can you shout out all of mine too?
You do it. Anyways, you can find me on Realtor.com and all that. See my
Likewise.
And yeah, Ali, it was great talking to you again. As always, it's always great for you to be wrong and for me to be right. So
that's cute. He thinks he's right.
Anyways, see you later.
All right, bye.